I've got 5 great tactics that I'm using in my business. And again, I want this to be as kind of collaborative as possible. So if you have questions or you would like to, further explain something that I'm talking about, I'm happy to take the time. So the first thing is that, some of you know this, I do a lot of listing business, which is my passion. It's kind of a labor of love. And obviously, it's been years and years of implementation and consistency. And so we're not going to be able to do everything and implement it immediately into our business. But if you could take one great tactic from something that's shared on today's call and implement that in your business, I think that you would find some success. I think at the end of the day, anything that I do from an implementation aspect of my business is I do it for 12 solid months. I know some of us try something for 30 days or maybe a week, and then they say, you know what, it doesn't work, and they stop doing it. I think that you have to just try it for 12 months if you're going to implement it. And obviously, you have to track and measure everything, especially from a cost perspective. So I'm not inventing anything new here today that I'm going to share with you, but these are things that I'm using to generate some business. Full disclosure, I took 80 listings last year. I have 60 signed listings to date, which is fantastic because we're only 5 months into the year. So don't overcomplicate it. I think if you could rip off and duplicate and implement and track and measure, you can find some listings. Okay. So the first tactic I have is that we need to dig deep on expireds. I personally believe a lot of people that are looking at expireds are looking for an expired that happened in the last 60 days. I don't think we ever take the time to go back 2 to 4 years, right? Even 12 months. Because some of the people that didn't reach the success of listing their home the first time, they have the opportunity where they most likely put a renter in the place for a year. And maybe that wasn't the best decision that they made, but that was the decision they had to make at the time. And so I challenge all of us to look back for expireds in our demographic of area that we want to serve and really hone in to those expired opportunities. Now, the way that we do expireds is we don't call them. I'm not that person. What I do now, I'm not saying that you can't do that. I think calling is fine, but you're going to get more no's than yeses if you call. In a perfect world, if you dropped your listing presentation off on the doorstep, right? Now you have to be tactical. You have to make sure that, if there's a renter in place, that you're not dropping it at the renter, right? So if you look at the, county parcel and you see that the tax mailing address is a separate address, then of course you would want to get it to that door, right? But I think there has to be some intentionality about it. If they're living there, then they're going to get the package. But what you don't want to do is cause disruption. And I think a lot of people that didn't sell their home either are sitting tight or they placed a tenant in the property. And so just, again, be mindful. But getting them the presentation with a market analysis and maybe a handwritten note that says, I'm sorry that you were unsuccessful in selling your home, on X year. I'd love the opportunity to revisit your goals and put my perspective why I thought your house, didn't sell. And when they get a package that is comprehensive, that showcases your success, and of course, what you can do differently, they're going to invite you to a conversation versus everyone knows this. As soon as the listing goes expired and we go and chase them, there's like 60 agents that are on that person and they're just overwhelmed. So I think, again, if you can go about it, whether it's a listing that's, expired 2 to 4 years, or it's something that just expired, get to the door. The one that gets to the door is going to win first, and they're going to get the conversation, at the table. Does anyone have any questions on that? No? I think, if you're going to make a phone call to an expired, I think that you need to get to the seller explaining why they felt the home was not successful in selling, right? They're going to give you the points of contention, whether it's the agent, whether it was the market, whether it was the presentation, whether they're set on the price. And once you can identify what they feel, you can overcome those objections, or maybe identify that this person has unreal expectations on what market pricing looks like, and then you can set that one to the side. I think at the end of the day, expireds is a long nurture, right? So for me, I do the drop. I give them 7 days to call me. If they don't call me, I call them, right? But I don't call until I drop the drop of value. If they don't engage in a conversation, they get added to a drip campaign, right? That's going to be at their door, right? So they're going to get a quarterly postcard of services. They're going to get a market analysis every 12 months, and they're obviously going to get updates on our year-end proof of success, right? It's a slow burn. If I can retain their email, right, from a conversation, they're getting set up on home valuations every single month, right? At some point, if I stay engaged with them, when they are ready, whether it's not a right now or later, they're going to call me. Fair? I think, again, some of us get overwhelmed on what to give an expired. I like to give them the whole meal deal. I have seen success where some agents will just take their listing presentation and break it up into small segments. You can do it that way. If you want to just do a quick drop with like maybe your thing, I think the more you can give them, the more that you can be a standout, it's going to create some success and some conversation. Another thing that I do that's outside of expireds that I think is a great tactic is if you've been in real estate for X amount of years, even if it's a year, if it's, you know, Marjorie's been doing this since the dino years. I think at the end of the day, a lot of agents don't do anything with the buyers that purchase our listings. So if I had 80 listings last year, that means there's 80 buyers. And if the agent is the agent I think they are, they're not going to engage with the consumer at the level that I would. So we will add them to our database immediately at closing. They will get a handwritten card from us that obviously thanks them for purchasing a home that was listed by us. We will let them know that we're the local agent. We will let them know that we're here for anything they need. And then they will get an email every single month with a home valuation from us until they unsubscribe. Now, I will tell you that out of those 80 listings last year, 7 of them were buyers that actually came from a listing that they purchased, right? So like this last week, I went on an appointment. This guy said, hey, you sold us, you know, you were the listing agent last time. You were amazing to work with. You know, we've received your market evaluations. We're going through a divorce. We feel like, you know, we don't want to work with the agent that helped us because they have a personal, you know, relationship with us. We'd like to work with someone neutral third party. You know the house. Would you come out to the house? You know, I know you know the value already because we get your valuations every month. I went there, I got the appointment, and now we're listing the property. And I think, again, it's a very low cost spend for you to set them up on a home valuation. Now, I know some of us have brokerage websites where we have the home valuation tool, you know, set up in our website, so we can just plug and play. So like if you go to my website, bradleyhansongroup.com, you can literally click home valuation and it's built in. If you don't have that tool, sign up for HomeBot. Something that's going to be plug and play. HomeBot is a great tool where lenders can split that expense with you. I think that that's again a low cost spend if you're a lender, but as a realtor, it's a no brainer thing. You can see when they open it, you can see when they, you know, engage in it. A lot of times it's a great way for you to, you know, call if you're looking at the home valuation. You're like, oh, the property came up, you know, $20,000 for whatever reason. Hey, what do you think about this? You know, do you believe your value is there? Whether it's a past client or in this instance, it's an orphan buyer. But I think there's a huge opportunity for us to take those buyers and engage with them. You know, we invite all of the orphan buyers to all of our client events. If we invite, there's 100 transactions and there's 100 more people, not all of them are going to come, but we're going to touch them. Any questions on that? Now you guys are
Brad, I got a question for you.
The kind of second best thing along the lines of getting some listings is, I don't know about you guys, but I've got a big database of individuals that I can't keep in touch with every single one of them. So I have top 50 VIPs where I will call those guys individually and check in with them. a lot of my listings right now are coming from, people that are going through life, specifically divorces and, elderly parents. I'm 37 years old. So a lot of people are having some challenges where they have to move mom and dad, and they're going through life. I think sometimes we get busy, especially this time of year, where we're not necessarily keeping in contact with our databases, versus like in the third quarter and the fourth quarter year when it slows down. That's when we have more time to do it. So I think right now, if you have 2,000 people in your database, or 500, like focus on a small group where you can really have some intentionality and have some conversations, because people are going through life. I have every single past client set up on a home valuation, and I will follow up with them, whether it's, a quick text, I can, if they engage in it and they're checking it, I call or text. I don't do it for everyone. I only do it for the ones that I know that are engaging, because my tool specifically will tell me when they're doing it. I think a great opportunity for some of us that have databases is putting a referral program together to get some listings. At this current moment, we used to do top 50 gifts, where we would drop on these, 150 people that were kind of our referring VIPs. Expenses need to be cut in a market like this, but that doesn't mean that you can't use free things like get face-to-face and have a coffee with them, or maybe you're just calling about the home valuation, whatever the case is. But I think a lot of us too are not doing an annual CMA on every one of our past clients. And if you're not doing it, you should, whether it's you or a member of your team, whatever the case is. It's like we've got to give them a market analysis once a year at minimum. Marjorie is the queen of annual reviews. She does that like it's going out of style. I do it in the beginning of the year because I feel like it helps me build a list of listing leads, or people that are raising their hand and they maybe want to sell and buy or trade up. But I think that the point is that if you aren't giving them an intentional market analysis at their doorstep, right, like physically mailing them, the way that we do it is we put it in an oversized mailing envelope. So when it comes, it looks legal. The mailman, of course, is putting the smaller mail in between it. They have to look at it. It says important document, just like when we send them the, settlements at the end of the year, we still do it in a big one. It says important tax document. I think, again, if you can put it big, they're not going to miss it. And it's just a great step for them to have an intentional review of their property. And again, if they disagree with it, they're going to call you. They will call you. And if they want to sell, they will call you too. So I think, again, for me, it's getting 5 of these out every single week. We use Cloud CMA. It's down and dirty. Sometimes we have to do a little bit more due diligence on it, but something is better than nothing. Any questions on that?
Hey, Brad.
Marjorie, I can't hear you.
Really? Let's see.
I can hear you, Marjorie, and I could hear
Turn your volume up, Bradley.
Yeah, something's wrong. He's not going to hear you say that.
Hold on. Type in chat.
Yeah, put it in. You can't hear us.
I can hear you.
Yay!
Okay.
What were you saying?
I know that you had a question earlier from Dave.
Oh, let's hear it.
It was about your prior subject, the pursuing the buyers. That's
Yes.
Smart as a listing agent. I love that. If I have several listing agents that of course they do everything, but if they haven't done that in the past, you have a tactic where you would reach out to those people where you didn't initially, like you have. So what you do is very bright, by the way. That's an excellent tactic. That's a huge nugget, by the way. I imagine everybody else is pulling that out of this presentation. But what would be your tactic for somebody who has not done that to reach out to those people?
I think, again, what I would do if it was me is I would just, on the next anniversary, right, send them an anniversary card just like it was your past client, like, happy 2-year on it. Like, I think, again, that tactic could work with a buyer that purchased your listing, where you could celebrate their anniversary too, because
100%.
Again, the buyer broker is probably not in relationship. They've moved on to the next deal. Maybe they're not in the business. And I think that's the thing for me. people that are going through a season of life that want somebody that's maybe a neutral are not going to engage in that conversation, or the chances of that agent being in relationship is pretty low. And so I would just engage by, setting up the home evaluation, or just chime in with some direct mail that's intentional about their home anniversary.
Bradley, that's a nothing to lose tactic. I love it. It's great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
cheap. I like cheap. And it's something, again, that if you have a team, right, the team can easily take that on.
It's not cheap, it's less expensive.
There you go. There you go.
Just wordsmithing, having fun. That was a good one, by the way. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Marjorie, what were you asking?
So for me, the one thing also on the unrepresented buyers. So one of the things we've been combing through, can you hear me? Just making sure.
Yeah, I can hear you.
We're combing through all the new construction sales. We have so many unrepresented buyers buying new construction. So 3 years past of our new neighborhoods that were unrepresented buyers, and we're putting them in our database as well.
Yeah. I've got some nuggets on that I'm going to share because I am a big fan of that. So Marjorie knows this more than anyone, and some of you know this, that I do open houses every single weekend until the listing sells, which is crazy. But it is the #1 tool to generate a conversation right now, right? It's where you find ready, willing, and able buyers and sellers, and it's a great opportunity to meet the neighbors. So we do early entry on every one of our listings, which is a Friday night open house from 4 to 6, where we are literally door knocking the neighborhood to get specifically the neighbors to come in. And it's a great tool to engage, right? Now, sometimes it's successful, sometimes it's not successful. The point is that we do it every time with intention. I think at the end of the day, people don't make open houses fruitful. And the way that I see it is, it has to be like a farmer's market, right? It's an opportunity for you to make connection, get some brand awareness, tell people what you do, and obviously solve some problems. But I don't have anything that's a giveaway at an open house besides a service-based flyer. So like if they want to engage in the property, they have to scan a QR code. If they want to, engage in a home inspection that we do in the property, they have to scan, right? If they're interested in the property, I want to be able to follow up with them. So the only thing I give away is service-based information, or maybe some promotional things regarding rate buy downs, or, why work with our team. But most of it about the property is that they have to scan to get, and it's either, so everything's in a plexi so that they can't grab and go. I think, again, if you're not door knocking your open houses, which I know some people don't want to do, it's a really, really simple way to get your name out there. I built my entire business at the beginning off of open houses. I love doing them in one specific neighborhood or a radius, right? So like for me, Maple Valley specifically, there are 3 main arterials. Those are the neighborhoods that I'm going to go. So that way, if you're going through the community every weekend, you're seeing my name around town, right? And then I'm getting close to the neighbors, right? When the house, after the first open house, we write handwritten cards every Monday that says like, so sorry for the traffic. We're excited to share that the property went under contract. And then the neighbors get a handwritten card so that they know that, one, we're giving grace that we created a little bit of disruption this weekend with incoming traffic and nosy people doing drive-bys, whatever the case is, showing a little bit of grace, but also giving some gratitude. And then we let them know that we're going to reach back out to them once the property sells, right? So if you have the budget, right, doing a pending postcard, or maybe just doing a quick little door knock, letting them know the house under contract, we use the handwritten card just because it's a little bit more intentional. And then once it closes, if they have the same floor plan of the property, which most of us are selling, most cookie cutter homes, at the end of the day, if they've got the same floor plan, we can give them a market analysis that reflects that new price, and again, mail it to them where they have a new valuation, invite them to a conversation, have you been curious about your home? And then you get a listing appointment. Any questions on that?
I do have a question. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want you to talk about, so a lot of my students say, oh, open houses are a waste of time. I'm not picking up any clients there. Talk to the people and help everyone understand the value of like really the traction you're getting and what you're doing. you've talked a lot about, but like specifically at the open house, because I do think that people aren't using it in the right way to capture the leads and the follow-up from the open house that allows you to get more in front of them.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we are intentional. Like right now I have 4 listings in one, in one neighborhood, and then the other one I have 6, right? So we do all of the open house times at the same exact time. So imagine you're going through a neighborhood and all you see is Bradley Hanson signs, right? Like the visual is the tool of letting people know that we're the dominant agent. And whether we get 1 person, 5 person, 0 persons, at the end of the day, our signs in the neighborhood on a Saturday for 2 to 3 hours is marketing, right? Because whether they come and engage in conversation, they're still seeing it, right? Um, I think for me, again, I don't do anything that's a giveaway, like they can take a leave behind, unless it's a service-based thing. So things about the house, I want them to be able to engage with me. I think, some people are using iPads, some people are doing sign-ins. I don't like sign-ins because I can't read half the handwriting. I like a platform on an iPad. Otherwise, just getting them to, they say, oh, I'd love to see the pre-inspection. Okay, great. What's your phone number? And then I send it. But I also believe in having an area list of homes, right? So we brand an area list of homes for every one of our listings. So if I don't have more than 1 piece of inventory in that neighborhood, but I know that they're looking between 7 and 8 because I qualified them at the open, I can hand them this sheet that has all of the open houses that are in that price bucket. And then it has my information on it. So they think that it's my listing, right? And then I tell them, hey, after 4 o'clock, I'm going to be available and in the neighborhood touring this house. So if you'd like to see it, I invite you to, reach out to me and I'll show it to you. You know what I mean? Like just by being available, like I just want them to have the list and I want them to think that I have the inventory. But again, if they're shopping, specifically in Maple Valley and they're shopping between, 7 and 8, and I've got 4 active listings right now, I will tell them, hey, go see Kate at 123 Main Street. She's got the house that I think might be a better fit for you. It has this, this, and this. And so our team is intentionally bouncing people back and forth. And some of us are connecting with others, in a deeper way. Like some might like, Kate because she's sweeter and a little bit more reserved versus I'm more direct. Like we can kind of balance each other out. I think again, you have to have a follow-up open house plan. I think there's just like this misperception right now in the marketplace that, oh, agents aren't working, and so we're just going to send our buyers to the open house. I will tell you, based on the NAR settlement, no one has a signed buyer agency agreement, and no one is in the sheets with their clients. And so, if you want to pick up clients, right? They're at open houses. That's the only time they can get into a home without a buyer brokerage service agreement. And so it would be foolish of you not to do it on every one of your listings. I'm not big on dual agency, but I do it when I have to move an inventory, obviously with the seller's permission. Any other questions on that?
Brad, I have a question on open house. Do you ever do any canvassing of the neighborhood or door knocking prior to or post closing? The open house, I mean?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So like I said, we do the early entry for neighbors invitation. It's a door knocker that we will just put on the door. Most people don't want to be bothered. So we just put it on the door and then they'll see it. I've got 2, we call them junior agents. They're 13 and 15 and they ride around on these little badass scooters with BHD t-shirts and backpacks and they do it for us. But, it used to be me back in the day. And I think, again, it's just to get things going. We do like I said, we do the card after the open house. And then once the property sells, we will do a CMA for that owner and then just a little postcard.
See, those are second and third level tactics that are quite valuable. So thank you for that.
Yeah, of course. I'm big on farming. Again, the way that I built the business was solely, or I should say a listing specifically, is about open houses and then farming. So I do a monthly overview that looks like this. And this is kind of a raw version of it. But basically, it goes over every piece of inventory that has been sold. Marjorie mentioned, kind of a community that reaches out. Like at the end of the day, I've taken 12 listings this year in this one community. It's a master plan community of 2,500 homes. It's 3 years. The community itself is 5 years old, but it's turning. So those that bought new construction with a builder agent don't have an agent. And so a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, I set up this farm specifically around new construction where I knew that, okay, if it's 3 years old, and most people move every 5 to, it's 5 to 7 now, it's probably 7 to 10. I need to get to them. So what I did is I started this piece years ago, right? And now I have become the number one agent of this master plan community where 90% of the inventory comes to my team. And this piece looks the same every month on the front, but the inside changes. All these photos are of active listings. We highlight one, it gives kind of an overview. And every month by the 10th, it's received. So people just call me based off of this one piece, which has been fantastic. I have a smaller version of it that I do in 2 vacation markets where it's less of an expense, but it still has the same impact. I think, again, if you're not farming your own neighborhood first, you need to. I started with 150 homes. Now I'm up to 8,000 homes. But at the end of the day, if you don't have the mailing expense, you have your feet, and you could easily put a hole punch in this with a rubber band. You could pay a kid to put it on the doorknob. But if you hit the door every month, someone's getting the data. I like hitting them at the door. I think, yes, there's a lot of consumers online, but at the end of the day, when people see effort, that you're out there doing the things, like I went on a listing point last night. This lady says, I like the effort you have. Like, I was going to hire this 80-year-old lady because I felt bad for her because she's 80 years old. She's been selling real estate for 40 years. But I like that you have some intention and that you will do what most people won't do. I think, again, most people would rather just send an email versus get out there and do a little bit of hustling. So, I'm not above licking, sticking, stamping, or, dropping, but if you can get something to a neighborhood every single month and you do it for 12 months, and then you're doing open houses inside of that, and then you're sending them home valuations, you will pick up a listing. Once you pick up one, you'll pick up two. If you send them, some cards, and you give them a, proof of success, and, they know your services. And, I think a lot of us don't take the time. Like, there's nothing better, in this neighborhood, specifically Black Diamond, 10 Trails, I have every seller doing a testimonial, right? Where they are writing a letter that they had a great experience with me that I can then overlay with this, right? Hey, I just want to let you guys know we're moving out of the neighborhood. We had a great experience working with Brad. This is why we chose to hire him. If you're thinking about selling in the next 6 to 12 months, I suggest that you reach out to him early. He's awesome. He has a personal approach. He's super obsessed over the data and the details. And, we're sad to see, us leave, but, we're on to bigger and better things. I think, again, there's some intentionality around that. Obviously, social media, it's a great tool. I get some leads off of that every month, just being hyper local and focused on the Maple Valley market. If you don't talk about the schools and, some of the city officials and, showcase parks and restaurants and small businesses, like, you got to do that. The more connections you have in the community helps you. I'm big in Rotary, I'm big in Chamber, but again, you've got to establish yourself as a local expert in a small niche market. Go small and then build it bigger. Don't try to do a big neighborhood. Do small, something small that you can really be knowledgeable about, the builders, the layouts, the price, like any amenities close by. I think sometimes we want to be big, but we just got to be small and mighty first. And so I think that's a, just don't go big if you're going to go into farm. And same thing with social media, just keep it local. Like, Marjorie's obviously licensed in Virginia, but she's a Charlottesville girl. She won't go to Richmond, even though I asked her. It's true. I think, some of the biggest tools that I've used over the last 6 to 12 months is really connecting with people that are in the same industry. So I think there's a lot of people right now that have fear in the marketplace and they don't really know how to sell real estate today. And I think if we can get intentional about some classes where we're adding value to the community or to our past clients, I think that that's a huge opportunity to get some listing leads. You know, I have a great presentation on how to be successful in selling, right? Where we will, you know, open it up to the community. We'll have it here at our office where I basically go through my entire listing presentation, but more in like an open, airy room instead of being in someone's house. I'm taking the same intentional plan, right? But I'm doing it with a group setting, right? So maybe somebody is having thoughts of selling, but they aren't ready or they're insecure about inviting me into the home, right? Because it's needs to be decluttered, or they maybe have some improvements, or maybe there's a hardship. But if I can get them to come to my office and have a good experience in the office, get some education, feel like they can trust me, and then they invite me into the house, that's a win. So I think, again, if you want to teach a seller class of like how to be successful in, you know, whatever kind of market, and keep it local, right? Like how to be a successful seller in Maple Valley, right? Or how to, you know, how to downsize. I think right now, you know, part of my farming is looking for deaths and divorces. And so I have, you know, escrow and title giving me a list every month in 3 zip codes of like, okay, anyone that is doing a death or divorce, that's, you know, they can find, I want them to send it to me so that we can then hit their mailbox. You know, I don't want to do ambulance chasing, but at the end of the day, if there's an asset, it needs to move. You know, it could be, you know, how to downsize, or you could teach a class on 55 and ups, right? Most of them have a departing residence. If you get a sell and a buy, that's a win, right? So what are the best 55 and up communities that, you know, you can teach them about? Maybe it's just like how to downsize if you're over 55. Like think about what's going to hook people to come to a class. You know, I think my biggest client right now is somebody that has a departing residence, or they need to sell, or they need to buy before they sell because they just, that's their flavor, right? They don't have the capital otherwise, and they want to move up, but they just have all their equity. Like teach a class how, you know, what are the tools, or how to use a HELOC, or how to do a bridge, or, you know, whatever your program is that you like to help them get from one place to another. That's 2 transactions, but do it more in a classroom style. A great opportunity to get with a lender, right? Split the cost, right? 2 professionals sharing value. You know, how to avoid capital gains for seniors, right? That's a great way to have a conversation with some elderlies, right? Like we know they're have-to movers, right? Their health is going to create them to move. The staircase is going to help create a conversation to move. Maybe they are facing some affordability challenges just like the rest of us, right? So they might need to just downsize or right size. I think, again, if anything you can do that's specific to the demographic that you want to serve, or the have-to sellers, right? That's where the listings are coming from. You know, Angela is one of our students. She's crushing it on her kind of business to business networking. She's kind of created her own version of a BNI group. I think, again, if you are in relationship with other you know, service providers around housing, their insight, right? Like get close to a roofer. If they're going out to people's houses and they need a roof, or, you know, somebody that's doing some seasonal landscapers, like they might be doing some yard maintenance and they're getting ready to list their home, like they can tee you up. Like, you know, you got to be in relationship. Like think what the lenders do to realtors. Realtors need to be doing to the service providers. And I think sometimes we forget that, like, we need channel accounts too, right? So if you have vendors that are serving your book of business, like you need to love on them like they are your VIPs. You need to do, you know, bring lunch to their job sites, or, you know, make sure that their teams that are talking to the consumer that they're servicing, right? Because maybe you're close to the owner of the company, but the people that do the groundwork, right, that are actually the ones inside the client facing, they need to be the ones that know your name and know your service level and have your business card. So if you're not going there and, you know, feeding them and keeping them fat and happy, or gifting, or, you know, helping them buy real estate, you're kind of at a loss already. So, you know, do a monthly mastermind with some of these businesses that are under, like I said, household services, and really connect with them in a meaningful and intentional way where they can drum up some, you know, listing opportunities for you, you know. Any questions on that? No? Okay, well, those are kind of my 5 tactics that I'm using in my current business. Again, I don't think everything can be done in 5 minutes or 5 days, but I think if you can take one nugget and implement it in your business, you can find success. I think, again, there are listings out there. People are going through life. I think that you have to have some intentionality. You have to have a plan. You have to continuously do it over and over and over again. And you have to track and measure. I can tell you that all of my success for listings is coming from direct mail to the door, or it's coming through a community relationship, whether that's, me being in Rotary or doing some of these classes, getting involved in the school system. It's taken time. Every year I add one thing that I'm going to do to, spread my wings and get into the community. And I think you can't do it all, but if you do it and then you add, you can finally scale it. So I would go
I
ahead.
just had a quick question, Bradley. On those farming pieces, would it be possible to get just a couple samples of what you're sending out?
Yeah, of course. I'll send them to Rebecca.
Awesome.
And I think some of them might actually be on the site as well.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You bet. Is anyone else? Go ahead.
For the CMAs that you sent after an open house, are you doing it to people like homeowners you've had a conversation with, or you just blanket shoot them all in the subdivision over
I'll just blanket shoot them. Hey, I just sold, Tammy and Brian's house. You have the same floor plan. I thought you'd be interested in seeing what your new value is. Here's a market analysis. Let me know if I can serve you.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Is anyone doing anything right now that they'd like to share with the group to generate some listings? Or anyone having struggles that maybe we can talk about? No one's struggling. Everyone has a million listings. I love it. Show me your pay logs.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are struggling, right? I think that the key is getting in front of the have to moves. I think that's the biggest thing, is paying attention to in your local market.
This is Veronica.
Oh, Veronica, are you talking?
I'm sorry, it's who?
I muted. I muted her.
Okay, because I was like, wait, I'm confused. No, but I think that's the key, right? I think so many people right now in your area or in your market, as well as nationally, you talked about it, right? Like the seniors, a lot of boomers are like the #1 demographic moving. So we got to get in front of them. We got to get in front of the have to movers. And I think a lot of us, we have to implement one of these tactics, like you said. I think people give up on expireds, like you said. So 6 to 12 month expireds are a great group to look at too. Who hasn't relisted? Like thinking longer term, get them in front of them first. But if they don't move, right? If nothing happens, then 6 to 12 months later, farming, absolutely. So I think if everyone's listening right now and they're realtors or their lenders, they're going to teach their realtors. It's like, what's one thing they need to add, right? And then being really honest, what's really working for you? And unfortunately, I asked too many students that what's really working, and people might know a little bit, but it's like tactically, what are you doing that's really working? And then what do we need to add? So I agree with you. If people are having great success in something, I'd love them to share, because the markets are changing across the country. And, sometimes it's the most basic of basics that's really working, that we're trying to find the next thing. And it really is just getting back to something super basic.
I think at the end of the day, a lot of us I think we're letting fear get in the way of our actionable items. Like, I know everyone is watching their expenses, myself included, but some of this stuff is relatively affordable, and it takes a little bit more time, right, to write a card. But even again, don't do 50, just do 5 a week. Right? Find something. Like, if you can't make 100 calls, don't make 100 calls. But if you can make 5 really good calls, that's great. If you can do one market analysis on one of your past clients, and again, if you to Dave's point, if you haven't done something in a really long time, It's okay to write on the handwritten note that says, hey, I haven't done a great job because I've been trying to hustle or whatever. If it's a past client, just apologize and say, I felt like this was overdue. You're important to me, and I wanted to at least give you an opportunity to see what I thought your house was worth or what's going on in your neighborhood. You know, if you don't have home valuations set up, it's okay to say, hey, you know what? I'm excited. I launched this new tool with, you know, Lauren. Her and I are going to stay better connected and want to make sure that as the market changes, that you feel really educated, right? You write a really nice email or whatever the case may be, and you send out to all your past clients that says, hey, I wasn't doing this. I'm doing this now. Here's why. You're important to me. I'm curious to know your thoughts. They're going to engage. Yeah, that's what I got. That's what I got, you guys. You guys are so quiet.
We're absorbing all your brilliance, Bradley. Thank you.
Sure, Dave, sure.
Dude, you got some good stuff. I do have a question for you. If I was a brand new agent in this market, what would be the top 2 or 3 things that you would say, go do this?
I would 100% focus on open houses. Like, again, that is exactly how I built my business. I went to this one neighborhood. I did open houses every weekend. They were not my open houses. I threw my sandwich board over their yard sign like it looked like my listing. I took their flyer boxes, their flyers out of their flyer boxes. I put them on the front seat of my car so I didn't forget them. I put my flyers in the flyer box. I held the open house up. I gave the listing agent an overview line by line with every piece of detail I could give them. As soon as the open house was over, they got an email. I then sent them a card. I asked for the appointment, and I would do it again in the same weekend, you know, same neighborhood the following weekend or whenever I could get that opportunity. I would run into the same buyers and sellers, right? Because if that house wasn't a perfect fit or they had lost out on it, they went to the next house and they're like, oh, it's you again. I'm like, yeah, Bob and Mary, it's so great to see you. Like, I heard you didn't win the house on the last one. Like, I'd love to, you know, do this one. Did you see this one this week? And then you add the area list of homes, right? So they think that I mean, you just have to commit to it. But if you do it, it works. Like, again, if you can find a neighborhood that's intentional about the way that it lays out, right? So like in Maple Valley, it's 3 main roads. I will only do open houses that come off of those 3. So what I used to do is like 4 to 6 open house on Friday. And then on Saturday, 11 to 1 and a 2 to 4. And I would just move my signs, but I would only, like if I was doing 2 opens, they were in the same price bucket. So I knew that I was going to run into the same buyers twice. So I had 2 opportunities to interview for the job, right? If they didn't like this one, but I knew the next one was coming, I would be the first one to tell them, well, at 2 to 4, you should go look at this one. I wouldn't tell them I'm going to be there. And then they would see me and they're like, oh, this guy's everywhere. And then you just do it every single weekend. You know, my number 1 competitor right now doesn't love that I did that because that's how I now have part of her market.
Well, listen, you were practicing better seen, better known.
Highly visible, right?
Highly visible. Listen, it works. And Brad, a lot of the things you're saying, those are like little nugget tactics. They're great. Thank you. Good stuff. Seriously. So Marjorie's like, stay in Seattle. Don't move out to my market.
No.
Oh no, he's welcome here. We would crush it. We would own this town.
You'd own this town, baby.
I have no fear of anyone that's really great coming in. Let's do some elevating of the realtors. I'm in. He could come anytime. Bring it.
I'm good. I'm happy right where I am. Anyone have anything they're struggling that they'd like to chat about? We've got 15 minutes left. Or any other Q&A?
Well, Brad, I feel like I'm the only one asking it, but what are the top objections you're getting from sellers when you're trying to, they're expired, to win them back? Like an objection, maybe the top 1 or 2, and then how you overcome it.
Yeah. You're talking about expired specifically?
Well, I would think that that's probably what if you're chasing expireds, that's the ones that like, it didn't work last time, so you got to win them over now. Got it?
Yeah. I think that, you have to do some due diligence before you engage in the phone. I had mentioned like I do kind of the slide drop and then wait 7 days, right? And then I pick up the phone and call them. Before I call them, I'm going to make sure that, one, I understand what they did, right? So I'll see if they have a renter in play, if I can find that information out, or make sure that, at least do a drive-by. Sometimes I'll identify that the home's just been sitting vacant, right? If I call them and say, hey, I understand your house is vacant. I was in the neighborhood 2 doors down meeting with another seller, and I realized that you had some, when I was doing comps, you were unsuccessful. Tell me why you think it is. If they say, blah, 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 it's the road, well, then I'm going to talk about how I would overcome the road, right? If, I felt like the property was too high, is there a reason you chose that price, right? Get some understanding of why they're pricing the way that it is. And, also, I have no problem talking about the agent, but like, I had noticed you were working with an agent that's out of the area. Like, I'm only going to call expireds in the market that I feel knowledgeable about. So my number one thing right now is if they were working with an agent that wasn't local to that market, I'll talk about the success and why they should work with a local agent, and I'll use that to play. But most of the objections I'm overcoming is that they listed it at the wrong time, at the wrong price, or there's a condition problem, right? Other than that, it's just the way that it was promoted. So we talk about like why, important to work with a local agent, why people have chosen to partner with us. I have no problem telling them we sell a house every 3 days. I think, again, if you can be quick, kind of like an elevator pitch with these guys, because they're kind of on the defense mode, right? They're angry that you're a realtor calling. They're mad their house didn't sell, especially if you're doing it immediately. That's why I like the ones that are 2 to 4 years. Like, people have forgotten about them. But if they live out of state, they might really want to sell the house. I think, again, if you have the presentation with the video card and you drop that, yeah, your chances of getting that back are a little bit on the slower side if you don't get the appointment. But it's a big impact. If you sent me that, I would stop and at least engage in a conversation. It may not go anywhere, but at least hey, this guy's not ready right now, but I'm going to put something into action where I'm going to, drip on him. Or her, I should say. But I think, again, the objections they're so, specific to the individual person, but most of the time it's price or promotion. And I just have to get to them quickly with an elevator pitch of like, this is what we do. I think, again, I've mentioned Phil Jones's book, Exactly What to Say, a couple of times. I think that book is amazing for realtors that are working expireds. It helps you with how to frame the response. Are you open-minded to meeting with me so we can talk about how the house was unsuccessful? Are you, does it make sense for us to maybe just meet for 24 minutes, to give me a quick opportunity to walk the property and give you my, professional opinion? Like, just specifics, because these people are on defense, but there's a lot of people that are in positions where they have to move. I would say 50% of my current listings coming on for the month of May are all divorces. It's messy, but that usually comes with two purchases.
There's a couple deals in every one of those, unfortunately, or for better or worse, I guess is the way to say it.
Now,
Right.
are you networking with divorce attorneys, or are you just getting the list from the title company and reaching out directly?
Yeah, it's just title company directly. I'm not working with any divorce attorneys. It's not really like my flavor. I mean, it's kind of, they're all emotional, and money's involved, and there's different reasons why they're doing it. So it's not like, it doesn't bring me joy, but it's
definitely stressful, especially, I mean, I've been there many times. It's not enjoyable, but it is a good, I mean, it's one of the big D's of why people are selling right now.
Yeah. I'm honestly, I'm afraid, because I don't want to get divorced. And I feel like if you put yourself in a room with a bunch of people that are getting divorced, you kind of maybe start going through the mindset of like, oh shoot, maybe I've got a problem. I don't have any problems.
Brad, I pick up on a lot of little things. Why the 24 minutes? That comment seems calculated. What's that about?
I just think it's quick, right? You say, like, I said, a half hour. It's like 24 minutes. They know that I'm razor sharp and that it's only going to take me 24 minutes to walk a property. I think, again, I'm obsessed with that book. I'll probably read it on the way to Eugene, actually, again, because it really is the way that you frame things and the way that you respond, I mean, it really does work.
Oh, yeah. So that's wordsmithing in sales I mean, it's very important. So 24 minutes, I'm going to remember that. That's a good one.
Yeah. It also just makes people stop, right? Because sometimes they're listening, but it's overwhelming. And then if you give them like something that's random, they're like, wait, what? Okay. And 24 minutes is not that long. I feel like a half hour does seem like a really long time to.
Well, they're going to get the stopwatch out when you show up, but at least they'll let you show up, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with repeating at the door. Hey, I know I said 24 minutes. I'm going to be in and out. I appreciate the time. Here's what I'm expecting to get out of today's quick interaction. If you like what I say, I'd love to, have more of a potential meeting with you. Whether it's you or the two of you, whatever the case is. But again, I think the more that you can come prepared with the expired, the better. Like if it's vacant, I imagine someone's watching the property. So there's probably a hide key somewhere, right? Are you open-minded me to finding the hide key and popping in real quick for 10, 15 minutes? And then, I'll put it back. I'll send you a photo. That way I don't have to waste your time. I mean, I think sometimes we just call to call and we don't actually have like a plan.
Agreed. Good.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, let's crush the week. Oh, do you have a question?
I do. What do you think was the biggest thing in your career that got you from that point of calling to call to being tactical? And I find a lot of realtors don't know what to say, so it's great that you recommended that book. I'll probably look that up and give it to my realtors. But um, you're going to get more conversion saying what you're saying, having a plan, going in, being quick on your feet, responding to questions as opposed to just like going in with a plan ahead of time and just plowing them with information. What was the biggest change in your career where you started to pick that up?
I think I can't speak to one specific thing. I think for me as a team lead, right, there's 11 of us. I have no way not to show up with intentionality, right? Like I have to exhaust every lead myself. Like I think sometimes we just count on our teams. I'm not saying my team is, not at the same skill set, but at the end of the day, they're trained by me, but they don't pay the bills, right? And I think for me, like even my selling partners, I go on every listing appointment with them. It's their lead, but I take the time to go on every single appointment because one, I need them to win. I want them to win. And I'm going to be able to help them with the objections. And the more time I spend with them, the more that they're going to be able to convert. I think that it's just, I have this goal of, for me specifically, I have a goal of selling, enough houses, 200 houses, so that I can pay my entire sports staff $100,000 base. Like, so we all have to show up, but it's like, I can't afford to not lose. I hate to lose. And I also can't afford to lose. I need to get to 16 units a month. And that means every single thing we do needs to happen. And again, listings are not selling in 4 minutes and 4 hours and 4 days. So it's like, I need more inventory. And some of these things are like really old basic systems with a little bit of intentionality, but I have no problem doing the down old dirty. Like it doesn't have to be easy for me to do it. I think some of us are just looking for easy ways versus like rolling up our sleeves and like the deals are there. We just have to hunt. But I think to answer your question, it's just like I can't not win, and I can't not get it for the team, right? Because they're all counting on me. Example, last night I went on a listing appointment with this person that came from our website, and he didn't mention who he referred to. I was in the field. Jeremy took the intake. I met with them last night. They're moving to San Jose, and at the end of the day, mid-appointment, Lisa's on vacation, so Hannah came with me because we always have 2 people on every listing appointment, and we're like halfway through it, and the seller says, "Did I tell you who gave us your name?" I'm like, oh no. And he's like, oh, it was Jeff and Lil. I said, oh, that's awesome. Well, Jeff and Lil were Hannah's clients, and Hannah just happened to sub that appointment. And she's like, did you force me on this appointment because it was my past client that didn't call me? And you wanted me to like die in this 1.5 hour appointment in like pure, because I didn't manage my client database and my client reached out to you directly. Because the rule is if they don't call her, she doesn't get the split, right? If they call me, it comes to me. And I said, to be honest with you, no, but I like your thinking, right? Because she knows that I would do something like that. And today I called her, I said, hey, I'm going to give you that lead and I'm going to let you have it, but you can't let that happen again. She said, I already did what I know you're telling me to do. You're going to tell me to write a handwritten cards, drop flowers at her front porch and thank her, even though she gave it to you, but as soon as she gave it to me, it's like, that's the level of like commitment I have on everything.
I think you should teach a class at the event called You Can't Not Win.
I don't know about that.
I love it. Great job.
Awesome. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, Brad.
You bet.